Mercer from howshequits.com, and we are bringing you another interview with a fabulous lady who has started multiple of her own businesses and has just escaped that journey. We're taking that journey and escaped that 8 to 5 Monday through Friday job, although here you're sitting in your own office right now, so we can
created my own.
how do you get back to that? But it's okay because you chose to be there and do it that way. But Erin has 4 boys, and she has a platform that I know so many of you admire and are like, how do you do that? How do you get there? Like, what are all the steps? So I'm excited to have you today, Erin, and I'm just going to let you introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Hi, guys. So I started $5 dinners about 8.5 years ago as sort of a sharing what we were having for dinner and sharing what I was buying at the grocery store. And it resonated with people, a lot of people, and quickly. And so it grew very, very, very fast. It was a hobby blog, I guess, for only about a month and a half. And so it quickly turned into a business for me. And yeah, I just kept running with it. And, you know, the minute that I signed the cookbook contract that I signed really early on was the minute I knew I was I'm happy to be stuck with, that I committed to this brand. Like when you put a cookbook out there with your face on it, like you're committed, right? So I am committed to the brand, and it's been an amazing journey and experience. But I started it out of necessity for where our family was in our situation at that time. We were a 1-income family. I had been working and was a stay-at-home mom. I had 1 kiddo who was in therapy 3 days a week. So I was kind of working that like mom thing. So I have a little bit of a different story than coming out of corporate, but using a lot of my skills from my time as a working mom. I suppose I did work for a short time after he was born. And so bringing that all over and transferring it into the online space has been something that we have done, I have done well over the years. So.
Awesome. And so what year did you start that?
August of 2008, I started $5 dinners. I had been blogging before that for, oh goodness, probably a year or more. We had a little family blog, I guess, and that was kind of tracking my son's progress in his therapy, really. We lived far from family, and so it was to keep them posted, and then other people found me, and then I found other bloggers. And one of my business partners today, she knew me before I was, quote, therapy mom on that blog, you know, going to speech therapy and physical therapy and occupational therapy every week. So I had sort of that, and I just, transferred it all over. A little bit of what I had learned about blogging came over to $5 dinners, moved fast forward to today. And a lot of what I learned before I use today. So. Absolutely.
So, cause you have the dream, like so many people are like, I just want to write and blog and then make money. And if you download my How She Quits, like the step-by-step workbook to get out of your corporate job, because I blog too, right? Like my blog started in 2012 and grew like crazy and turned into the Firefighter Wife nonprofit. You know, we all have this, like, I just want to take my hobby and turn it into dollars. And one of the things I want you to set us all straight on, because now I consider you a very experienced businesswoman, not just a blogger. So we'll talk about that. Like, are you just a blogger? Are you a businesswoman? I'm encouraging everybody who listens to this to be a businesswoman and use a blog as one of your tools, if it happens to be the right tool, right? So, gosh, I've got a zillion questions. Which do I ask first? First, let's start with this. Do you think it's still viable to do what you did in 2008 in the 2017 market, as far as starting a blog and building up to a profitable income? And kind of talk us through that journey. Like in 2008, it was a totally different market, but now the internet's different. Social media is different. Like, what would you do if you were starting over today? That's a really hard question I'm starting you with.
I wouldn't do anything differently, and I would do it the same, and I still think it is viable. And the reason I say that is because content is content, and using your content to connect with your market is what you do. That's what I did in 2008. That's what I do today. The content is very similar. Although I have followed trends and do different types of content. My content is more varied now because now Facebook Live exists. Facebook Live, I didn't even have a Facebook page when I started. It didn't even exist. Then it was a fan page. And so my URL is still $5 Dinners fans on Facebook. Well, then they switched it from become a fan to likes, whatever. Right. So, but it changes. So yes, I have been smart in that way. In like the businesswoman sense of following the trends and meeting people where they are. Our team does a really good job of providing our content in diverse formats. Right. We're all over everything. We're on Instagram. Well, we're not on Tumblr, but whatever. And I can't Snapchat because, but we're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on Pinterest. I mean, we've just blanketed all of them. And it's because you want your content to connect with people. And that's how you do that. And so really, when I think about today's market and the market back then, it's all about content production and then using your content to connect with people. That's the same game is played today as it was back then, even though it doesn't feel like it's a game. It's not really, but it is. You have to have a strategy. You have to have a plan. You have to do all these things to go and connect with people and your market, right? And so, but using content, like when I think about myself over myself in the role that I've played in all of this and transitioning from hobby blogger to business blogger, now moving more into sort of a CEO sort of situation, solopreneur CEO, whatever that looks like. But content is like my jam. I love creating content, and it's actually been the hardest thing for me to outsource is the content creation. And I'm getting better at having people help me, with recipe development, with photographs, But for the most part, I'm still here cranking out the content. And so I think that alone right there is why it's the same today as it was in 2008.
Totally. I totally get that. And the whole, that you love to create content, that you know that about yourself. I sometimes think to myself, I'm like, it was so awesome that I was born in this decade, in this generation, or, this season, because creating is my thing, online, digital, it's always been my thing. So I totally agree. So finding that sweet spot. So the message to ladies out there is if you want to be in this business, you have to love creating content. Absolutely have to love it.
Or have the budget to pay somebody who does love it. And that's the other thing. If I do have the budget to pay somebody, but I do love it. I mean, I do pay a few people, but I do love it still. So I still hold on to this little piece of it over here. And I probably always will. And that's just because that's kind of my, I don't know, zone of genius, if we want to go. I mean, so, but I do need help with it as well, just because we're juggling so many different things at this point. But yeah, I think that you've got to be, and then that obviously goes back to passion. You've got to be passionate about what you do. And I'm in a fortunate situation that I happen to be passionate about food and meal planning, and that helps. There's endless ways to do food and meal planning and doing it on a budget, right? So I'm sort of sitting on a, pile of endless content that can be a little bit trickier if you're in a different niche, I guess, but there's still your unique voice and your unique perspective and your unique experiences and your story will help you kind of formulate all that content and share that story in a way that's going to, connect with your market.
Totally. And you do have to be smart about what niche you pick. So that is, at the forefront of our guide is to pick the business that's going to be scalable, sustainable, that's going to take you down those steps. So let's talk about that a little bit. So when it was just you, when you were just starting and blogging was the platform and blogging was the way, what were your revenue channels back then? Were you doing the affiliate revenues primarily? And then, so when we talk about business models, right? If you're going to leave corporate or leave your job, we want to have an income stream. Obviously, it's not, if you're in a great place where you can be like, I'm just going to write for a year and see what happens. Awesome. That would be great. But most of us, yeah, most of us are like, okay, when I transition, there needs to be some income coming in there. So where are those income streams going to come from? If you go down the path of being a content creator, a blogger, then online courses, ebooks, and affiliate marketing are the three common channels right now. So what did you start with? Like, where did your income start to come from at first? And I want you to answer that question too. Like, this is where it came from in 2008. And then if you were starting right now, where do you think it would come from first? You know what I mean?
Yep. So in 2008, my main, well, 2009, really, I started in 2008, but really started in 2009, ad network revenue. $5 dinners has always had a high volume of traffic to it. I think partly because it's a recipe site and we just have great articles and content. I mean, even now, before it had great traffic, it still has great traffic, right? So ad revenue, affiliate marketing, and working directly with brands on, sponsored post type content. That was the core revenue for 5 years, I would say, until 2014. In 2014, my revenue model flipped completely 180'd. And that was in large part due to a viral meal plan that we experienced. I'm going to say experienced. Everybody wants things to go viral, but yeah, it was tough. It was really rough, actually, if I'm just going to be honest there. So anyway, but we did do that. But that I had been selling digital products, meal plans mainly, a couple ebooks. I do have 3 traditionally published cookbooks. Those were out in 2010, 11, and 12. So there was revenue there. And then I do now have a couple of e-cookbooks. They're very, very themed and selling meal plans. And 2014 is when all of that switched. So now our revenue model is meal plan memberships. I have 2 of those, one for regular meal plans every week, and then one for freezer meals. They're different, very complementary to each other, but different. And we do have a store with individual meal plans available for sale. And I do have 2 courses now. And so that's flipped in the sense that, yes, I still have ad revenue, but it's not the bulk or core of the revenue for 2 reasons. One reason, ad revenue is not what it used to be, CPM or RPM wise, which means this many impressions per page. The numbers are way lower than they used to be because brands are seeing that, they're not getting the ROI that they want. So they're not willing to put as much spend in there. In 2011 to 2014, probably, they were just dumping money into display ads, and it's not really the case anymore. And now brands are looking for more organic type placements. And so sponsored posts or, brand sponsored series, those are still fairly common and popular because there's more, they can see the value and see the ROI and the engagement on those types of posts more than they can in a display ad. Like, when was the last time you clicked on a sidebar ad?
Yeah. So
like 2012. So we've seen that, and we've been fortunate enough to have kind of, I almost would say inadvertently followed that trend. I don't think I can say I did that on purpose. I saw the decline happening. I talk with a couple of folks kind of in my inner circle about that specifically every couple months, just to kind of check in and see how it's going. And it's kind of happening across the board. So yeah, I have, been a little bit ahead of that curve, slightly on purpose and slightly by accident, more by accident.
You don't give yourself enough credit. She's a super smart business lady. So
well,
when you're doing this stuff, it moves so fast. And you do have to have a really intuitive sense of what's coming next, what trends are going to go, what trends aren't going to go. And you can just be inundated with the noise. I think that so much of what we hear is noise and not founded. And, like it might be right for like one niche and one tiny little thing. And you have to be able to discern that and say, yeah, that's very true over there on Instagram, but that's not going to affect my audience because, my audience is different in this way. So you got to be able to quickly, I think, filter all that noise and have that intuitive discernment to go, we need to shift, slight shift, big shift, whatever it's going to be. So that's a key. I think when a lot of people, see all the blogs out there now and they I want to go start a blog and I'm going to make ad revenue. And when I talk about that in my guide, that's what I mean, that the ad revenue is not what it used to be. And the other thing that I've seen shift is, when I grew up, my big audience starting around 2012, it was so much easier to grow an organic audience on Facebook, especially, and Facebook is still king for audience and content. And so it was so much easier then than it is now. So even starting to build like the How She Quits brand, more dollars need to be pumped into the advertising to build a brand now than happened in 2012. So, so what we haven't said obviously is that if you want to start this business model, you need traffic. You need a lot of people coming to your website, whether you're selling a product or whether you're having a brand sponsored post. So let's talk about traffic today, because you and I both leveraged all that nice organic growth early on, but today's a little different. What if you were starting today and you wanted to replace your income, like what would you do for traffic?
Targeted traffic. I've been very fortunate to just have volume and eyeballs over the years, and starting again now, I would drill in on, my avatar and just talk there, right? Whether it's starting a Facebook group, a free public open to anybody Facebook group. I think that could be a really effective strategy these days. It really depends on what you've got. If you've got a product, a service, like whatever, it kind of depends on that as well. But you've got to go and find them and be as aggressive as you can without being spammy and obnoxious, because there's a lot of that, right? But if you have something of value to provide to people, it's not going to be spammy or obnoxious, right? And so but you got to go find them. So it could be that if it's millennials, you might want to be you might want to be on Snapchat 24/7, right? And if it's Instagram and you're going for the younger audience, you need to be doing Instagram stories. We have not done one Instagram story. I don't even know. I'm not going to try to figure that out, right? But I don't think we've had good success on Instagram so far. Maybe we will one day. Who knows? Anyways, but I think you've got to drill in on who that person is and then find them and meet them where they are. That's right. And I think that's the key today. I think eyeballs, yes, is the more eyeballs you have, obviously the more success that you'll have. Maybe that's not true. I don't know. I could even challenge myself in saying that you need the right engaged eyeballs is what the key is at this point, especially if you've got a product or service that you're going to be selling. And so the more engaged, correct eyeballs that you have, the better. Because if they're not engaged, it doesn't help you to have them on your email list or on your fan page or whatever.
Well, and this is, so I'm going to talk business nerdy for a little second about this, because we were really in a phenomenon where you could grow traffic and grow lists, and where it's appeared to be a numbers game, right? Like, I need more followers. I need a mass amount of followers. I want something to go viral. And we can talk later if we have time about how hard it is to handle something goes viral, because I've experienced the same thing on Firefighter Wife, right? That I have a big audience. I mean, be careful what you wish for. 100,000 followers is now, you don't get rid of them, right? Like, you have 100,000 followers, you're the brand in front of it, and you want to do well for them, but is it the right 100,000? And everybody starts to have, you can't be all things to all people, basically. So a better model, what you're saying is, we had this bubble, and where we're at right now is back to a more traditional, I guess I want to say, equalized business arena, where you target into a specific niche, a smaller list, you can still make a ton of money off of, especially when it's very much the right people. So, for example, I would be happy with my numbers if I can get 1,000 women to leave corporate this year and have their own businesses. How fabulous is that? That is a great number. Like, it gives me goosebumps when I say it. So I know I'm onto something when that happens. Whereas 5 years ago, it might've been like shooting for 100,000 people on a Facebook page, right? But 1,000 is still going to be just right if it's 1,000 women who we know we can get them out of the corporate job.
Right. Exactly.
So we're shooting for a smaller target. That's super clear. And it makes it feel like you're just like, oh, all right, this is going to be more achievable. Right. But you said you got to be on Snapchat 24/7. You use Snapchat as the example. I know when I was building my audience, I was hooked to Facebook and blogging, because those were my two main methods, like it took a lot of time. It was a lot of time for which no dollars were coming out of it. And I was doing it when I was in corporate, working, working it on the side. So let's talk about that. Like if you're a mom and you're working another job and you're trying to build this up, like how much time in a week or a day should they expect to be spending? And then the second time question is, and like for how many months? Like what's realistic? Like how long might it take to build up an audience? And I know that's very dependent on the niche and everything, but maybe just share what it took for you and what you think is reasonable.
So $5 dinners when I started was this total side hustle. Like I was in therapy waiting rooms, literally not all day, but a lot. I was not home at the computer. Like it started very much as a side hustle. And then as it grew and as the email volume grew and as the numbers grew, I actually did have, like, there was the Google's, what was it called? Google Circles or something. I don't remember. Yeah. Way back. I had the most number of people in my Google Circle or whatever. I had this little widget on my old like blog spot way back. Right. And so, and it was like, you have to talk to everybody. So it slowly becomes this like thing. Time, you got to give things at least a year at this point. And I can use an example. I was a part of a new brand. I stepped out pretty quickly after we all started, and there were 3 of us involved, and my portion was not what people wanted. I was on the food side of things, and so we quickly discovered that was not the content that folks were looking for in that particular niche. And so I stepped out, but they're killing it, and they've been it's been a year and a half since it all started, and it was a side hustle for them, and now they're doing amazing, selling their own products. But it was content. How did we start it? Content network. We already had an existing network online, so that was helpful. But content. And yeah, I love seeing that. But it's been a year and a half since that officially started, and it's been so fun. Now I'm watching kind of from the side, but it's been, yeah, you've got to give it at least a year, and, have that plan in place of, here's what I'm doing in month 1. Here's what I'm doing in month 2. Know that in month 3, you're going to want to quit. Know that in month 4, you're going to want to quit, but then you'll get re-energized in month 5. Like, you've got to know that all this is coming so you can push through it, because you've got to give it at least a year. I would say maybe even 2 or 5 even. It obviously depends on what your product is, what your service is, what you're going to do. The market fit's got to be there. I mean, there's so many variables and factors, right? But I think that there's no get rich quick scheme on the internet. You'll see people telling you that, and I call total BS on that.
There is.
There's just not. There might be a couple of people who fell into something that sort of went viral. I mean, that did happen to me 3 years ago, but I had been working at it for 5 at that point, so yeah.
Okay. No, those are great answers, because so something about me, and this is why I love Erin and why we work together, is that I'm such a pragmatic girl. And like, I love all the fun stuff. Like, I love having a brand. I love having a blog. Like, we all want that, right? It's pretty and it's fun to do social and whatnot, but I'm sort of like, all right, when are we going to get to the money? All right, what's the time frame? All right, what's, very task oriented, like, let's figure this out. So yeah, Erin, you're a good truth teller in the same way. And so my suggestion for like women who are trying to like, you need like a gap job sort of, to between your 8 to 5 and my brand is up and running and making money. And that's why I sort of tell people like, hey, go into the freelance space, right? I mean, this is how Erin and I connected. And, I, as a freelancer, I don't put a lot of content out, because when you get out there as a freelancer and you do good work, you network, and the referrals come and the referrals come and the referrals come. And that's a little bit of a different model. So I really advocate doing that as your gap job in between. And while you're doing it, you're in there learning the industry so well that your brand, then maybe you can short cycle a year. I don't know. Like, the only way I know to short cycle the year is to throw more advertising money at it in a very, very targeted way. That's the only short cycle I've seen. And when I talk about throw money at it, I'm talking the people I've seen do it have thrown $50,000 to $100,000 of Facebook advertising money into it. So, unless you get that inheritance in that time frame, yeah, that's just
that's tricky though, because if your Facebook ads are converting for you, if you have a low dollar amount, why not pull out a $50,000 line of credit, dump the Facebook ads in, and then 3 months later, after, if you know the conversion's there and you're going to make money on it, then you can pay that line back in 3 months, right? So whatever, that's another story for another day. But
but the message there is that you have to know they're converting. You have to build a brand enough to be able to test it enough and then spend that time really fine tuning the Facebook ad to know that it's converting. And then, I have some ads running that, on $30 a day, I'm making $100 in sales on this wholesale product that we use for a nonprofit, like all day long, right? 30, like how high can I scale that so that the 100 becomes 200, So there is a Facebook ad game. I mean, again, with setting expectations, because I know women listening to this are like, I so want to be out of this job. Like you're probably listening to it on your commute, or you listen to it at your lunch hour, or the soccer sidelines, whatever. And you're like, all right, but get me there, get me there, get me there. I just like to set expectations and say, set your goals. Don't get I'm not saying give up on your dream, because if you've had sort of like a brand and a message sort of placed in your heart, then you got to keep working on that and developing that, and just do it over this long time period, and know that that time period is realistic for what we have going on. What I do think you can do to get your gap job is that you could probably be a freelancer in a week if you found, you can get a gig in a week if you've got the right talents, and that's going to be a stopgap to help you get to that point. So this is really good. Let's see. From a practical standpoint, I mean, you talked about you're doing this from the waiting room, the therapy waiting room. I mean, that really is how it gets done. And because I did the same thing, right? Like on my lunch break was all about working on my business, and it didn't feel like, it felt fun, like it was reinvigorating and rejuvenating to be able to do that. Mornings, right? Everybody finds another extra hour in the morning after the kids go to bed. You're not watching whatever Netflix drama that you're addicted to right now.
24 Legacies back.
That's the one of the week. I mean, that's something about me, because people often say to me, and so I'll ask this question to you, Erin, because people always say to me, like, Lori, how do you get that all done, right? 4 kids, and I got the nonprofit, and I got my own consulting business. And I'm like, well, one thing is that I don't watch TV. Like, I rarely watch TV. It's just not a thing for me. And if I do, it's so intentional that it's like a break time, and I don't know, it's like just my thing. So Erin, I told you yesterday, I'm like, you are like superhero. You get stuff done faster than anybody I know.
Fast.
No lie, you're super fast. So like, what do you not do? Like, what do you think other women are doing that are like, oh, I'm not getting this done? Like, what do you do different in your life to get all this done?
So I think the high level answer to that would be, I have a very simple life. Well, it doesn't maybe look like it if you look right behind me, but I don't do clutter. My house is like a Pottery Barn house. Like if you walked in, you'd be like, whoa, you would not expect that from a house with 4 boys, right? And it's because I do simple things. I do a load of dishes every day. I do a load of laundry every day. Usually it's actually 2 loads of laundry every day. Every day it gets done. It doesn't take me time, and it doesn't overwhelm me, because I know that I need to spend 15 minutes every afternoon or evening, depending on the day. I have a very simple dinner thing. I know what I'm doing, partly because I'm a food blogger, so that does help. It's a little different, but it's very simple. I don't do clutter. I don't do digital clutter. I don't do physical. It's really crazy. It's not crazy, but it's wannabe minimalistic, if we're going to go there. And I think that that's part of the reason, although I say that, but that stack of books is like very anti-minimalist. I can't read on a Kindle, so I have to get physical books.
Look at my rear.
Yes, but as soon as I'm done with those, they get passed right on. Like I do have a small little library of books, but really, but the rules of minimalism, I should keep them, right? Anyways, I think that's part of it. Like I've really stripped down a lot of our environment, our schedule. Yes, I have 4 boys. Yes, they're in activities, but it's still stripped down. Wednesday nights, super protective. We never have anything on Wednesday nights. The day that we have something come up on a Wednesday, I'm going to cry a river. Okay. Like that's just how we are. Now that means Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, we're in different places. That's fine. But Wednesday is everybody in the family needs a fresh breath of air to get to the weekend. Right. And so I've just sort of like crafted it all, I guess, to be this way. So that would be one thing. As far as like TV, I mean, I will watch 24, but I'll watch it on Hulu when I can. Like I'm not going to watch it live, or I don't even have a Devo. What are the DVR? What are those things called?
Yeah.
I don't even have one. Like I got to catch it on Hulu or I'm out. Right. And so, yeah, I did do a lot of night work early on. I don't work at night really anymore now, which is nice. But I've gotten to that point where I don't need to. But my guilty pleasure and my little reality scape is true crime. So, which actually I knew before, just from things I used to watch when I was younger, but when Serial came out, the Serial podcast, that became a thing. Most recently, I've been listening to the Stranglers podcast. And I'm just kind of fascinated with all that stuff and then legal parts. And so I will binge watch on occasion, like the OJ, People versus OJ, like there's things that I'll binge watch, but it's all like, I can't work anymore this week. I'm going to binge watch, something this weekend or whatever. So that's kind of like, I batch it together. I batch everything, including my binge watching.
It totally works. It works. And, I think, you also didn't mention that you've run a few marathons. I mean, who always has time to train and run marathons? I mean, you have discipline, right? It doesn't feel like a good word, but it's actually my word of the year. And it's because there's freedom and discipline, right? Like there's freedoms and discipline. And my husband's got a crazy work schedule. So I've always really struggled. Like I can't be like every Wednesday, right? Because is he working? Is he not working? We don't know. So I've had to kind of adapt that into our firefighter schedule life. But the discipline, I think, is the key. And when you were talking about clutter and the minimalism stuff, we all want that. I don't know anybody that doesn't want that, right? Because it feels good, it feels refreshing. And I know like my personality type, I struggle with it because I'm a very visual person. So I like to have a lot of visual things around me. So a minimalistic room is like not stimulating enough for me, right? But I have to have systems to keep it in place. So my stacks of books back there are like organized by the 4 topics that I'm focused on this year. And those are my stacks like for the whole year. Like, these are my business strategy books that I'm reading. And these are these like neuroscience books that I'm reading right now because that's a topic I picked, right? So no, I love that. But I've thought about this in the clutter. The reason things get cluttered most of the time is because we have a fear of like throwing it away. Like I'm going to need this. But most of the time, when do you ever go back and pick it up? Yeah. Like,
no, I'm over that. It took me probably a couple of years to get to that point, but oh my gosh, you should see me get rid of stuff. And now I'm actually on the flip side of that. Like, do I want to even buy this and bring this into my house?
Yeah, exactly.
So now it's a little bit different mentality, but I think it just goes back to, you're a systems and process girl. And so am I. Like, there's a process for the laundry. It's a simple process and it's a process. And the reason it's a process is because I don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
When it's in a process, then I don't have the open loop or the track running in my brain of, oh my gosh, do we have any uniform shirts? My kids go to charter school. They need uniform shirts. We have a uniform closet. I took a closet that had all of our, there they are, that had all of our, like, storage. There was a mattress in there. It was a walk-in closet on a small room, a small walk-in closet on a small room. And we didn't use it. We used it for storage. I took everything out, threw most of it away, drove the 2 big piles of scrapbooking stuff up to my friend in Dallas. Like, I'm like, you can use this. Here, take this. And so we were going anyway. So I drove it up there. anyways, so, but then I took that closet and it only has uniforms, underwears. So the kids walk in, get dressed. And guess what? I don't have to do. Mom, where's this? Where's that? Where? Never. As long as I keep the system going and put the things back in the closet, it's part of the system though. But we don't have there's a basket for shoes and belts downstairs. They get dressed upstairs, put their shoes and belts on after breakfast. Like it's just a thing. So, I mean, getting 4 kids out the door every morning is a crisis, right? And one of them is young enough that he still can't really do much for himself. And so it's like the other 3 need to be able to do everything for themselves. But it goes back to like having this stripped down, simple process. I'm out of here. I'm hands off. I can't. There is not enough. I don't have enough hands to do that. And so that's kind of what I've done, both in the business, for sure in the business, and then just in life too. And that's enabled me to not have to stress about this, not have to bark about this, not have to yell about this, right? And it helps me stay, I guess, really like optimal performance, right? Like as cheesy as that sounds. Yeah.
We need to make up a word that sounds better than that for working moms, because optimal performance does sound cheesy and that's what everybody's saying.
It sounds very masculine.
But it is the truth. Like the reason I'm reading those neuroscience books is because I know that I am not effectively using all areas of my brain. And that one of the most personal growth things I can do in my life is to clear more, cluttered thoughts out of my brain and to be a more optimal thinker. And the science backs it. You and I are both Christians. Christianity backs it. There's Bible verses that back it. So, I'm eating that topic up this year, and it's a long topic. It's a year, right? Because you got to kind of read and try and adapt. So that whole optimal performance thing, I mean, the Christian sense, it's living more in your true self that Christ made you to be, because, he wants you to be performing optimally at your best, because then you best serve the calling that you were put here on earth for. So we need a better word for that, because like I'm sort of calling it GSD right now, get stuff done. And then that's my little like, sometimes it's not stuff.
Funny.
I'm not a big cusser, but I can sort of do my GSD. But that's why like the program, after the How She Quits or the program for the How She Quits ladies is get stuff done. And we are making a lunch hour, get stuff done. Because if you can clear your brain when you're working in your corporate job and dedicate an hour a week, to working on your business, that's how I got out of corporate. Like you have to be focused in that hour. You can't be distracted. Your brain has to be working good. You have to have the right nutrients. You have to be breathing well. Like this is something I've learned about myself this week. I don't breathe deeply enough. That's why I get tired around 2:00. So anyways, I am so right on to you there, but yeah, optimal performance. That's for Olympians or something.
It's not though. Like when
the word is, yeah.
The word is for sure. But when I think about the habits that I've created, the compound effects those have created, that's a book, right? Dan, what's his name? I don't think I have it here.
Compound effects?
Darren Hardy. It's Darren Hardy.
Oh yeah.
It's all about habits and how they compound on each other. But I'm telling you, like, if you knew my diet, talk about simplicity. It's the same thing every day. I mean, dinner's different, but my morning, my lunch, and dinner varies because it has to. They're the same every day, identical. And it's because I know how to fuel my body, which that sounds crazy. I'm not an elite athlete, but holy cow, I can't have a 2 p.m. afternoon dip. I can't afford it. And I don't have one ever. And so I figured out what I need to eat to not get that to happen, and sticking to that. It's hard sometimes, but.
Well, because even when you get to the point that you and I are, where we're working for ourselves, we're running our own businesses, we're still mom and wife and, doing things for the kids. So you have a schedule similar to mine. I mean, my work fits between 9 and 3.
Yep.
My summer schedule, I even have it on my calendar this year for May 1st. I need to like set my expectations right for what I can get done in the summer while the kids are home. Number one, because I want to have summer fun with them. But number two, because the interruption cycle is different in the summer. Yep. So hey, just go with it. Summer, put different projects on the agenda that are going to flow better for summer. But between 9 and 3, like, my husband is sometimes home during the day, and wow, now I'm going to say this out loud on a podcast you may never listen to. My workflow is different on days that he is home compared to days he's gone. And it's a hard thing for me to rationalize because, he's working 24, 40-hour shifts. So I want to see him. So I will make sure we take a nice lunch together on the days he's home between 9 and 3. But other than that, 9 to 3 is like power hours. Like,
yep.
Me and Erin, we've got this interview scheduled in here and we're not going to go over it. And it's like, all right.
Well, if we did fine, but
good stuff. Okay. So let's see. So we've been going for, we got like maybe 5 more minutes to wrap up. Can we totally transition for a second and talk about B-School slightly? And it doesn't have to be just B-School, but what I want to know is like, what were the most valuable resources and tools that you were leveraging, like when you were building up your businesses? I know B-School is one of them because you and I have talked about that. But yeah, what were some of the tools and resources that you found most helpful?
So B-School, I heard about it the year before and kind of had obviously wish I had signed up then. Now that I know what I know now, whatever. When it was happening, I went through it 2 years ago. So 2015. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was finishing up a consulting situation, good income. And I knew it was coming to an end and I was going to need to replace that income. I didn't have to, but I should have and needed to. And B-School was like,
because that's a good point. So you started making advertising dollars and then you were getting some brand money and then you realized like, oh, the ad dollars aren't going where I want to. You did some consulting. So you were also freelancing consulting in the midst there. And
yeah, but in retrospect, I probably shouldn't have in retrospect because the ad revenue has always been 6 figures for me. It's always been fine. And in retrospect, I neglected the $5 dinners brand. Obviously I had great experience doing it, but yeah.
Okay.
I don't usually bring that up because it doesn't, like, it's a part of it, but it's not like, I don't know.
The lesson is you were testing different business models and that's probably one you shouldn't have tapped into because there was opportunity cost lost on where you could have been pumping into your brand.
Right. I mean, the advantage is when that came to an end is when B-School was happening. So I just went out on a limb and did it. I was very on the fence thinking I'm already making multiple 6 figures at that point on this one brand. I know what I'm doing. I don't need that. Yeah. Whoa, was I way wrong, right? Like I don't have a business background either. So I was in a different situation. And so I'm really glad that I did that because it set me onto, yes, that's the new training. It set me on a path that, of, where we are now with being more, being smarter with selling products and just knowing how to position them and market them and whatnot. And I think that I was doing that okay before. I wasn't doing it optimally, I guess.
Yes.
So I'm a huge fan. The way that Marie teaches is fantastic. She'll have her workshops where she'll tell you all the things you're supposed to do, but then it's B-School where you learn how to do them. And that's the good stuff. Now, B-School also set me on a reinvigorated or re-inspired or whatever, the hunger for learning. And which is why I always have a stack of books like this, right? I'm never going to get through that Tim Ferriss book, but I'm going to try. It's a big one. But anyways, I'm always learning. I listen to usually one podcast at a time. Right now it's a SaaS related podcast because that's the space that we're moving into. And yeah, I'm always learning. I actually have a dedicated learning slot every week. And yeah, I think that's how B-School helped me. It kind of gave me this framework. Now I ridiculously hustled after that, right? Both on the learning end and on the implementation end, like ridiculous amount of hustle to get that done. Like I had the first course out, sold to over 1,000 people, less than a month after B-School ended. Right. So like crazy amounts of hustle, like in Vegas for a conference with a 9 a.m. phone call with Entreport. Like who wants to be awake at 9 o'clock in the morning in Vegas? Not me. No, it really wasn't that crazy, but really like, that's kind of like the ultimate hustle, right? Like if you're in Vegas for a conference and yes, I was out late the night before, but nothing crazy. Right. And then like 9 a.m. I have a call. Like, so that's just, it was crazy. As far as tools go, Entreport is what I use for my CRM. And that has been, well, as you know, I mean, just if I didn't have that, I mean, that's probably the most important tool that I have in the toolbox. We do have several other things and layers and different softwares and whatnot that we use. But really, when it comes down to it, that's what kind of powers the memberships, the email communications, and the course logins and all that stuff. So that's a really fantastic tool. But really, like I had heard about courses before that. I didn't know what they looked like. So once I went through B-School, then I was like, oh, this is a course. Okay. Bleh. You know, then there was not magically, with a hustle, one appeared. Right.
That's right.
And, I'm still trying to find the right formula for the course. The 2 courses that I have now are both fantastic. But I think for the next one that I do, it's going to be custom built. So,
well, and you are in a phase, I mean, we talked about this, like you moved from being a blogger to being a business owner, and Erin she's always on the far end of the trajectory for being on the next trend and the next, she called herself a CEO at the beginning. And that's very true, because you're studying SaaS, software as a service, for those who don't know, because you're now an app owner. And that's the next level you move to. When you build a big audience, you have a big list, and you have a course product or a membership product like you do, you want people to consume your course because you believe in it, because it's good. I'm a consumer of her course and her app, by the way, because I don't cook and she helps me do that in a more efficient way. And the app then is, when you're running an app like that, it's a different way to look at business than just, you still have to get the traffic, you still have to do the social, you still have to, drive dollars, but it's a really different strategy at that level. And so connecting that back to B-School, B-School was the first program I found that addressed those topics. Like, are you building a sustainable business? Are you building a scalable business? And if you're just starting out listening to this podcast, or whichever format you're consuming it in, because we're going to multi-purpose this, like Erin talked about earlier, you don't have, that's like phases down the road, right? It comes in phases, but you need to have, I think, the end game in mind. Like, I'm not just going to stay here and be a blogger. Like, we need to grow into, whether it's online courses, whether it's, whatever your product is, it could be e-commerce if you go in that direction. That's your end game that you need to keep in mind. And you've done that super well. And that's why I love working with you and love hearing your story, because your brain is just always out there, just a little bit ahead of the crowd, I think.
Maybe. And that's probably true. And, I think, coming out of B-School, one of the things that I learned, I had been just this recipe blogger, like here's recipes. But then one of the most, a lot of it was valuable, but was customer feedback and what that looks like. And I really started paying attention to customer feedback in 2015, which is what led into the new trends, talking about new trends of personalization and customization. Like, I had been for years, here's a meal plan for you. Well, I don't like all the recipes that you picked. Well, okay, let me make something that you can pick your own. And so that's what we did. We built a software that allows you to do that. But that's listening to customers and not having up customers, listening to them, and then building something that they can customize. And that has been extremely valuable. And so now I'm like, okay, what other software do I need to develop in my life? Like, that was easy, right? And so it wasn't easy. It was easy, actually. It was very easy. It just took a while, right? And actually, it didn't even take that long. I have that brand hasn't even been around for a year yet. Two weeks, it'll be a year. And it's ridiculous when I look back and see, but it's because it was a team effort. I knew what I was doing. I knew what I wanted. Customers want a customization. Customers want a personalization. So we rolled out a beta in May. We soft launched membership in June. We full on launched in August. Like, it was just sort of this, you got to know there's this progression, that starts with customer development, listening to feedback, and then, hopping from one step to the next, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's an exciting place to be. That's for sure.
Okay. So if we sum this up, if this is the path that you want to get you out of your corporate world, and because it's awesome, by the way, like what I know Erin would say, same thing. It's awesome to be able to sit in our home offices, or you even now rent an office.
I do, because my 2-year-old was crawling all over me at home. And so I do have a nanny who helps with him, but I'm like, I can't have you crawling all over me. I got to go.
2-year-olds need some visual separation.
Yeah.
But it's amazing work. You're serving a ton of people. It feels very good to be operating in this space. So if you're just starting there, the hustle is to first listen close and build your list. Doesn't have to be 100,000, could be 2,000. And to know how you're going to move out of that, I'm a blogger and traffic getter, into I am a service or product provider of something that changes lives. Because as soon as you find that something that changes lives and your audience is tuned into it, that's where you can do what Erin has done. Gosh, even in 24 months, right? Like, start today, even in 24 months, because like you said, it's way easier to create a website than it was 4 years ago or 2 years ago. It's way easier to make an app than it was 4 years ago or 2 years ago. We are just moving at a crazy speed in the technology world. So, oh gosh, we're just going to have another podcast with you, because this is
we haven't even scratched the surface.
we haven't even scratched the surface, but I think everybody had a taste of what it's like to be running this kind of business and how to get there. And I appreciate your time. Let's see, let's make sure that we go back to how do you start, where do you begin, and howshequits.com. We do have that step-by-step workbook that you can download. And I will link all these great things that we talked about in this discussion in some notes. And Erin, any last words, or are we good?
I think looking back and I've heard this actually from Josh Becker, who runs Becoming Minimalist, right? So I'm a wannabe. I'm not full on, but I'm a wannabe. Anyways, he said something in a recent podcast that really kind of stuck with me, and I think is an encouragement. It kind of goes back to that value piece, if you're providing value, but like if you, he said something along, I'm not going to quote him directly because I don't remember it exactly, but it stuck with me as, if you're going to serve people and provide value to people, and you do that over and over and over, the money will follow. Yes. And I think that is definitely the case. And he's a believer also, right? So, and he's actually a former pastor turned blogger, speaker, author, right? And so he's done that transition where he had that moment of, okay, I'm going to stop that now because this is what I want to pursue. And I think that there's a lot of wisdom in that. I'm not here to try and get rich. Like, most of the business income pays for the team. And like, this isn't like, again, it's not a get rich quick scheme. This is like a business, right? And so, yeah, I think that's stuck with me. I heard it recently, and I'm kind of, keep serving people, keep helping people, keep giving them value, keep serving. And that's what all of our content and is, I would say that's probably a core value of ours, would be to serve people. And then the positive consequence of that is that, income comes in, through whatever channels you decide. So.
Totally. We said this in one of the previous recordings, money follows excellence. So
yep.
Keep serving well, and you'll keep being rewarded and given more responsibility, I think, to serve in that space. So very good. All right. howshequits.com for show notes, for step-by-step workbook. And thank you, Erin, for all your time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. This is great.
Awesome.